Humans have been experimenting with color for centuries. Color is something that interests me in how we use it in our daily lives. And one of the things we're going to talk about with women artists here at the Toronto Outdoor Art Exhibition is the use of color and how they use color in their art and its impact in their lives. I'm speaking with Kate Taylor. So Kate, tell us a little bit about your art.
So my art is really all about capturing energy and motion in nature. So I'm very attracted to color and flowers, and so a lot of the color is captured within the pieces.
And you have a studio in Toronto?
I do, yeah. I'm based in Yonge and Lawrence in Toronto, and I paint almost full-time. And so it's been a wonderful opportunity to kind of expose your kind of creative thoughts and kind of really get out there creatively.
So can artists be business people?
I think that you're probably a more successful artist in some ways if you are a business person. Like I think I've seen some really talented artists that don't always have the business component of it. So, as much as it's wonderful to create, you also have to sell and you have to market yourself and you have to build a brand, and that's really critically important, I think, for the people that are purchasing to know that you're really committed to your craft.
I'm an abstract artist working in acrylics, and although it's abstract, it's actually abstracted from nature. So I do a lot of landscapes, a lot of sort of trees, waterways, rivers. I hike a lot. I do a lot of walking around Ontario, so it's all my favourite places. And some travels from around about Europe too. I have a couple of pieces from Norway, from France.
It's just anything and everything I think of. I love to draw sumos, so it kind of grew from there. And ever since then, I've been making like sumo themed work and like lots of like weird, quirky things. Yeah.
My art is inspired by local food. I've worked as a chef for many years, and I also have a degree in fine arts, so I combine food and art.
Well, I started making it about 22 years ago. I graduated from George Brown College's Jewelry Art and Design course right here in Toronto. And when they taught us how to make chain by hand, which is taking wire and drawing it and making the rings and actually forming the patterns, I just thought it was like the greatest thing. So that's what I've been concentrating on. That's my technique of specialization. It's much like the chainmail technique of medieval times, so it's been around a very long time. So I decided that nobody was doing anything really interesting with it, so I decided to take an age-old technique and just sort of put my spin on it and make it more contemporary.
So this painting is called Frisia, and it's based on a photograph that I took. I really like macro photographs. So the process for this is I work on a birch panel. I stain the panel so you can see the wood grain that comes through, and that becomes an integral part of the composition. Then I work only with a palette knife, and I mix the colors on the board. So the composition is a palette knife, and then I put a resin epoxy coating on top of that. And that's mixing a resin and a hardener and degassing it with a propane torch to get the bubbles out, and then letting it cure. And the reason I do that is because it really accentuates kind of the energy and the kind of the juiciness of the color, but it also actually really helps to bring out the wood grain.
This one is actually, I've just painted this. This is my most recent painting. I actually spent a weekend at my friend Kate's cottage, who's a couple of doors down here. We had a painting weekend, lots of wine, lots of sunshine, lots of trees, by the lake. And this was the lake just outside the cottage. There are trees across the lake from there. The sky was bright blue like it was today. And it's just about the reflection and the movement in the water. It's just a very calm, peaceful day spent with friends.
Hot pot mama, and it's just like a vessel I made, and you pretty much put anything in there. It's like a jar, cookie jar, well, for tiny cookies, but yeah.
Tiny cookies, that's
cookies.
My kind of jar.
Yeah, so I don't know, it was just the most fun I've had making like a bigger ceramic piece.
Something that is obvious in your art is that there's a female figure.
Right.
Where does that come from? And what does she represent to you?
Well, I think it comes from my own work with food, and I find art is an exploration for me. So the figure usually somehow loosely resembles me in a way, and so it's a way that I can just explore that process of cooking and my relationship to food and art.
Yeah.
And so how do you find the support to continue doing your art?
I have a wonderful husband who prodded me into doing this. He said, doesn't matter, give up your job, do this. So he's here. In fact, he's actually next door. He's a photographer. I've dragged him into showing as well. But he was there at every show. He's there supporting me, helping me set things up, just helping with the logistics of things, and just being behind me as a cheerleader, just cheering me on and supporting me.
Well, I have other jobs too. I teach like pottery part-time, and I'm like a part-time server, so it's just a big juggling movement for this, yeah.
I do some cooking, so I have to balance my art with practical things as well. And then I'm at the beginning of my career as well, so I'm finding places, like I did the Spring One of a Kind show, just getting my name out there and just getting a sense of where my work sells. And I think it's a slow build. It takes some patience and some dedication and making choices, not spending my money on other things. It's always spent on art and shows and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a choice.
Well, the art community in Toronto is incredibly supportive, and it's a very small community. So I'm also actually chair of the Artists Network, which provides support for artists and helping them with the business of art. And through that, I've met an incredible number of wonderful people that are part of that support group. So, if you have issues or you need some honest critique of your work or whatever, there's always somebody there to really help, which has been fabulous.
How do you use color? What is the importance of color in your art and in your life?
Oh, it's very important because it like sets the mood for your pieces, and I don't know, nowadays I'm trying to find more intuitive ways to use color and whatever's funky and fresh, I don't know, and like kind of throwbacks to vintage colors too, so.
I love color. I love strong color, and so it's sort of very much of a natural for me. My house is painted in like raspberries and yellows, and so the work as well sort of reflected that. I'm a huge gardener, and one of the reasons I love the gardening is because it creates really an unusual, sometimes combination of colors that I then will integrate into the work.
As I said, although it's abstract, it's from nature. They're abstract landscapes, so it's the red of maples, it's the blue of water, it's seasons, the white of snow, and all those different whites that you get, the greens of summer. It's definitely all from nature.
I like looking at like a local carrot and just seeing all the diverse colors that occur in nature and trying to bring it into my work as well. And then having just a really varied color palette where you have bright reds and bright greens and lime greens and sort of shocks of color. I think, color can just be uplifting and playful, and I like to bring that into my work.
I use it as sort of, sometimes it's the main focus of what it is, and sometimes it's just an accent, but I just feel like color sort of, depending on if it's a dark shade or a bright shade or whatever, I also see how women react to color, and when a woman comes along and goes, oh my God, that's the color I've been looking for, then you're like, oh great, didn't know you were looking for that color. But I like that, like I just love all colors. I just think like the color of your dress is really lovely, and it's a great color, right? So,
well, thank you very much. So can you tell us a little bit about the Artists Network?
Yeah, so the Artists Network is a not-for-profit organization that helps artists with the business of art. So a lot of people are wonderful at the creation of their work, and this really helps them to understand how do you price your work, how do you do an outdoor show, how do you get into galleries, and it provides that kind of business sense as well as an incredibly supportive community. The Artists Network curates and produces shows like the Riverdale Art Walk and Art Walk North, as well as involvement in the Toronto Art Expo, and so it provides kind of show opportunities in a bit of a safe and supportive environment for artists, and mentoring also with artists who've made it and who have been successful, and it just creates a really wonderful community.
So how does food then, or why does food inspire you so much with your art?
I think that the forms are really beautiful. I think that promoting local produce is important, and just the forms, the leaves, the colors, the textures I find really inspiring to work with.
I would have to say the links themselves, when you start working with making the rings, because I actually form the rings myself, and I draw the wire through a plate, make it longer and thinner, coil it up, put it around different size mandrels. As I'm working with the material, because it's a spatial thing, things occur to me as I'm putting the rings together, and that's sort of how I find my next pattern. And the other thing that inspires me is any interesting stone or crystal. I love color, so I do a lot of colorful things as well. And I just love working in silver and all the precious metals, silver and gold, and some of the base metals like bronze as well.
Now, if you had one piece of advice for a young artist who, would like to do something along the line of what you're doing, what would it be?
To stop thinking about making it a career and to just make that first step to start showing your work. It's a scary thing to do. You're kind of standing there in your underwear in front of everyone. It's hard to put your heart and soul out there for people to view and criticise, but it's how you grow as an artist. It's how you, I think that, to be honest, I think standing, talking to people about what you do really helps to solidify it in your mind, and it helps coalesce those ideas that you maybe have, to actually be out talking about your work and showing it rather than being at home. That's my best piece of advice.
Don't give up on it, because I think that it's really easy to get discouraged, but there's a lot of support.
Oh man, just to keep going, patience and persistence, never give up, because being in the arts is very tough, and you have to have thick skin, but also you have to love what you do. So I don't know. Yeah, keep on pedaling. Yeah.
Keep on pedaling. Where can people contact you and find your jewelry?
Well, my studio's here in Toronto on DuPont Street, and I have a website, which is www.lisaridoutjewellery.ca.
Check out my work at www.nesslee.com and hire me as an illustrator.
Hire us.
Yeah.
So you can reach the Artist Network at artistsnetwork.ca.
And yours?
And KateTaylorStudio.com. I had to think about that.
If you would like to be a guest on Extraordinary Women TV, visit our website at extraordinarywomentv.com. I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter at Shannon_Skinner or on Facebook at Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. Join us next time for another episode of Extraordinary Women TV.